I'm in a little bedroom and I'm ready to remove this smoke alarm. And it's important to realize some of these smoke alarms are going to be connected to a hardwired system with electrical wires inside the ceiling that goes over to the next smoke alarm, the next one, the next one. So you'll have a green light here, and if you're not quite sure, you can unscrew this and look at it. And here's an area here for the battery. Come on. There. See, there's a 9-volt battery in there. Now, if this was just a smoke alarm with just a battery, you wouldn't have this wire coming in there. So I see that it's going through here and it's going up into the ceiling. So first off, I know that that's a hardwired system. See, this is going to slightly chirp like this even though the power is off. There's something in here that causes that to happen. And on this one, I just kind of unsnap that, pull that off. What I was going to say, before you start working on that and before you disconnect this and everything, once you realize, okay, it's hardwired into your system, look in your electrical panel, and chances are it's not going to be written smoke alarms. It's just going to say lights and plugs or outlets or something. And then what I did is I got on the phone with my aunt, because I'm over at my auntie's house replacing smoke alarms for her, and I had her look at the green lights. I told her when the green light goes off, let me know, and I started flipping breakers. It only took me a couple before I found the right one. Okay, so that's very important. When you do this, don't do it hot. And you know, you can do it like that. It's possible to do that one wire nut at a time, you know, but don't do that if you don't have to. Okay, so there's 2 mounting screws up here, and I had gotten some sheetrock screws because I thought maybe the mounting screws were going to be small, but son of a gun, they are sheetrock screws here. They're fine, and so they're going to be okay, okay? So I just loosen up the screw, and usually there's a slot here where you can kind of slide that down over the head of the screw, okay? Like that. And if not, you could undo the screw all the way. Okay, sure enough, here's your wires in the box. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of pull them out of here. I still am slightly careful with this, okay, but I do know that the power is off, right? I should not have to worry about it too terribly much. And on this hardwired system, there's 3 wires here. There's a white wire that connects to the white, black to black, and there's a yellow, and that's connected to red. Sometimes this wire coming from the smoke alarm is red, and you connect it to red or yellow to red. You always, whatever color, could even be blue, you know? But white always goes to white, black always goes to black, okay? So I look at that, all the wires are the same. There's 2 white wires, 2 black wires, and actually there's only 1 red wire. Okay, so I gotta be careful with that. I'm glad that happened. I know this is on the end of a line. Okay, if it was loop-de-loop-de-loop-de-loop to other smoke alarms, and if this wasn't on the end of the line, I'd have 2 red wires in there, okay? But because I only have 1, I want to make sure that when I take this off, that I keep track of this particular wire nut on this one, because if I use one of these other wire nuts, like the black, actually I'm wrong. Each one, there's just 1 black wire, 1 white wire, 1 red wire. Okay, so when I take the wire nuts off, I can replace any wire nut with any wire. Does that make sense? But sometimes if you're not, well, here I'm on the end of a line for here, but if they would have ran actual power back out of here over to somewhere else, like sometimes they do, you might have 2 black wires coming out of the box, 2 white wires coming out of the box, and maybe only 1 red wire coming out of the box. Okay, then you would have to keep track of the wire nuts, because then I try not to put one that has 2 wires on it back onto one that has only 1 wire, because maybe the wire nut is loose and it doesn't tighten up properly. Okay, so now these wires look like they're kind of wrapped on there like that, so I'm just gonna kind of twizzle it off. hopefully you can catch this. This was a double wire. You do the same thing, because usually on a double wire, the electricians have done you a favor. They've kind of twisted those together, and then you don't have to undo that one. Okay. Boy, this one's giving me kind of fits here, because they really loop-de-loop-de. There you go. Okay. There's that wire. I guess I could try taking the end off of there and then just twizzling that off. See why you really don't want to do this when these wires are hot? You don't want to shock yourself or anything. Okay, wrap that off. Okay, there's the old smoke alarm disconnected, and now we're ready to install the new one. Hey, speaking of tips, here's the old battery. What I like to do with that is I like to actually disconnect it and take it out of the old smoke alarm, because when you throw this away, this could chirp in the middle of the night or in your garbage can, whatever. Now when you throw this away, just be careful that the ends do not touch another battery that you're throwing away. You could put electrical tape over this individually, masking tape, whatever. These have been known to start a fire. I would not also recommend, would not use these batteries for something else. Sometimes, here's another idea. Whenever you replace batteries, whatever it's going to be for smoke alarms or ceiling fan remotes, handheld remotes, whatever, put the date on here so you know how old these batteries are. Okay? Do it right. Here's another tip for you. Yes, this little video clip is all about tips, mind you, on your smoke alarms. Now, I told you that before I started working on these, I shut the electrical power off on the actual breaker outside. Okay, so once I get all these reinstalled, before I reset them, I'm going to turn the breaker on. And my auntie had a good idea. She said, hey, why don't you make sure you mark the electrical breaker in the electrical panel for the ones that say smoke alarm. So I might put SA on it, or just an S or something. Tell my auntie what I did. That way, if you ever have an issue with wanting to shut this circuit off again, you won't have to troubleshoot it. You can get right to the electrical breaker and do it the first time. Hey, speaking of tips, one last tip for you. Your 9-volt batteries, the old ones, don't just throw those in the trash, okay? I forgot all about that. I'm going to take them out of these boxes, all of them, and then take them maybe to a grocery store or a hardware store where you can put them in a little recycle container. Be good to the environment, and it'll be good to you. Well, that's all I got for this time, but I'll be back with more videos.